Hello, this is Graham, and welcome to my Dasher. I want to ask you to do a little bit of homework for next week, and so it made sense to show you a little video of the kind of thing that I'm after, because it involves a bit of graphics, which would have probably been a bit harder to communicate simply using text on the VLE. So here we go. This is a very simple exercise in theory, but in practice I think you'll probably find you need to put quite a bit of effort into it. So a week's notice just to get you prepared for it. First thing you're going to need is a piece of paper. I'm using A3 and I recommend that you use A3. A4 is a little bit too small for what I'm going to be asking you to do, but don't worry, you don't need an easel from your childhood. This is okay. You can just use the piece of paper. You also need a pencil or a biro of some sort. Really recommend using one of those. I'm actually going to demonstrate it with a big fat marker pen, but that's just simply so that it shows up well on the video. So let's have a go. I'll show you what I'm after. The first thing that you're going to have to do is to get a ruler or some kind of straight edge and make a line diagonally across the piece of paper, something like this. That's got to be the easiest bit. Now the next thing is put a 0 down on the bottom left hand corner and round up from your current age to the nearest 10 years on the top right hand corner. So if you're 36, you'll round up to 40. If you're 56, you'll round up to 60, and unfortunately I'm going to have to put 70 up on that corner. The next thing you've got to do, and this is where it does get a little bit more complicated, is to mark off 10-year increments along that timeline. So nice and easy if you've got a round figure, but mine isn't, so so far, so good. Now then, this is going to be the bit that calls for a lot of reflection and thinking and concentration and may take more than one effort at making it happen. I want you to write 40 or more items or events or activities or periods of time that have had an impact on your life. So for example, I changed school when I was 11. The change wasn't great, and school afterwards had a bit of an impact on me. Some positive, some negative, but that transition was significant to me. Similarly, though, the period of time that I was at school from the age of 5 onwards was also significant. And just to remind you, I'm using the big fat pen so that it's visible to you. I suggest you use something much finer because you're going to need to put a lot more detail onto your timeline. I went to university when I was 18, and that period of time was significant. I didn't actually leave until I was about 25, so uni is a significant period of time. I then went into industry and went through a variety of jobs until I was around about 40, and in that period of time I was working in organisation development. Again, very important and influential in my period of work because it gave me introductions to all kinds of different bits of information, knowledge, skills and so on. Around about the age of 38, I was going through an interesting phase in my relationships and also going through some interesting times in my work in organisation development. And one weekend I decided that I would try and revisit the skills that I'd used when I was at university in counselling. And so I signed up for what turned out to be a 6-year course in psychotherapy. So that's my abbreviation for psychotherapy. I changed jobs and I went and joined an organisation which was a firm of consulting psychologists. And from that period onwards, I've been working in the field of coaching. It was because of my coaching work and the fact that I was working from home that I volunteered to do a charity job back in my early 50s, well, mid-50s. And that was a very pivotal event. I volunteered for something, and it introduced me to a whole world of education and led to me getting a job as a university tutor. So another job comes in here. Uni tutor. So far nice and easy. What I haven't shown on here, though I did mention it just now, was about relationships. And so let's mark on significant relationships over time. I'm in a relationship now, and that's been going on since around about, around about then. And we might as well put names, so that is Jilly. Before Jilly, I was in a relationship with somebody by the name of Liz, who I met in my later part of my time at university. And then before Liz, I was in a relationship with Trish. And, oops, sorry. All three of those relationships obviously had a very important and very significant impact on me. Again, some negative, some positive. Out of everything we learn something. And so those three relationships been very important parts of my life, and I could extract from that what were the key things that I learnt as a result of those. In exactly the same way that I can take out from each of the jobs that I've had, key things that I learnt along the way. Another significant factor which had led to me doing the volunteering role was the fact that I have for a long time had an interest in what's called life-saving. This is really around teaching children to save lives, but it introduced me to a raft of different opportunities, leading and running charities, being involved in understanding how governance works in organisations, as well as developing skills in teaching and learning. So that's beginning to give you a shape of the kind of timeline that you might develop and the kind of things that you might be putting onto it. I haven't got any children, but if I had had children, then very definitely any children arriving on the scene would have been a very significant factor. The breakdown of relationships, whether they're just simply partnerships or whether they are divorces that are involved, those breakdown periods can be very important and very significant, and we learn a great deal from those. So my challenge to you over the next week is for you to draw up your timeline and for you to populate it with at least 40 different things that have happened to you over that period of time. If there are big blanks, if there are big gaps, and some people find there are certain phases of their life where it seems a void, think about what happened in that time and reflect on it. Quite often sometimes we have blanked it out, we have almost ignored its existence, and that's an important psychological process. Other times, simply not a lot was happening, or we were living in the shadow of somebody else. So again, think about that, think about what you would put in there, and let's be prepared in a week's time to have a look at some of our timelines and some of the big learnings that we've got from all of that process. Thank you. As ever, hope all goes well, and look forward to speaking to you in a week's time. Cheers, bye.